One of the soundest ideas originating from the most recent patch is a return to form of the good old Dagger-Shield Spellbreaker setup. After all, there's up to 4 dashes and 3 CCs in its extended combo, not to mention boost charge, which ticks both of the boxes, or entirety of Rampage being CCs and dashes, making for a very tempting combination with new Brave Stride and new Body Blows, granting respectively Fury and Adrenaline on movement skill activations, and applying Weakness and 6 stacks of Vulnerability on anything with CC. If you're curious, Discipline 233, Strength 111 and Spellbreaker 113, with Staff Dagger-Shield, with Berserker Amulet, Rune of Ranger, and Defender Relic, with Sigils of Battle, Cleansing, Stagnation and Exposure, is what I eventually set down on as working best for me. Skill-wise, Mending with Balanced Stance, Boost Charge, Shake It Off, and one too many beers at Chili's, aka the usual, did the trick most of the time. As you may have known, dagger damage was always decent, but eventually has fallen behind the power creep, and many of whatever was left from Warrior player base sticks like a glue to the ranged one-shot combo of Spear, which technically also got buffed this patch, but nonetheless. Dagger-Shield specifically was the setup that piqued my interest, as it necessitates different approach than just taking the dual mace build and switching 2 buttons. That's because you can't take advantage of arms crit steroids or dual wielding, due to not having the same lockdown as maces do. I wouldn't however call taking Discipline over arms a downgrade, even if I was held at gunpoint and told to lie. Immunity to Immobilize, faster weapon swap, Cleanse and Adrenaline on toes, as well as dastardly burst cooldown reduction, with the full counter book giving it twice the intended reduction still being present, and finally the burst damage increase, Adrenaline refund, and supplementary swiftness to a spec that spams bursts like online scammers spam your inbox are extremely valuable propositions. Not to mention the dagger burst being unblockable and removing boons by default is one of very few things that work consistently against the boon-smeared scorn that is current meta. Unfortunately, however, I can't call this thing strictly better than dual mace either. It is not bad by any means, and utility it brings is more than valuable, especially now when warrior population dropped so low that your average ranked creature feature forgot that this funny golden string is an actual gameplay mechanic and not Elden Ring reference. With Magebrain Tether, Vulnerability application on every CC and Fury on every dash, your combos are very dangerous, especially if you tether somebody and go Alcoholic Father stance to remind them of the experience that made them into the filthy stealth abuser they are today. However, that doesn't exactly compare to the universal utility of jellyfying a motherfucker where he stands as soon as you catch them off guard or out of stun breaks. And even the best player runs out of stun breaks eventually. Furthermore, there exists an interesting conundrum with the Dagger-Shield build as a whole, as it is simultaneously squishier and tankier than dual mace build. Squishier because you run around with no vitality, and cannot heal for your opponent's entire health bar right in the face, but also tankier because you have 2 hard blocks, not 1, and are more nimble, which allows you to preserve your limited HP pool more actively. Of course, there are situations in which you are more bone than adventurer lost in the skeleton cave no matter what you do, and the longer you live, the more you realize that many CC skills just can go straight through full counter. So you really want to have a margin of error of the width that lets you play somewhat comfortably on the class, picking of which is already considered an error. On the other hand, playing slightly squishier build that can bypass block and kite better is often worth the greater risk, and if you have the skills to pilot it, it can pay off really well. And if you don't have the skills to do so, the best way to learn is by trying. But most often than not, difference between dual mace and Dagger-Shield builds is too situational to be a major factor in what you wanted to play, so we can chuck it off to personal preference. Now it is a time to think, why not Sword Offhand instead of Shield? And that is a good question, because there is no reason. Shield gives you a stun dash, meaning synergy with both new strength traits, and that's basically the reason. If you so much as think Sword Offhand will work better for you, I'll do nothing but encourage experimentation. And the last thing that we need to discuss is Mace Shield equivalent of Dual Mace build. Yes, you can deal substantial damage with Mace main hand alone, especially with new counter blow, but it is only enough if your target doesn't have damage mitigation, and without dual wielding, any amount of latency will make your combos inconsistent. The pros of increased survivability from shield does not outweigh the cons. It is simply better to go full damage and apply excessive percussive maintenance to everything remotely standing in your way. And that is all I had to say for the moment. A big sign of gratitude towards all my generous supporters continuously considering my dubious quality content worth their money. You're all truly welcome. Crabface out.